So right here I got a selection of some of the wrenches that a viewer sent me as a gift. These are all vintage, uh, basically European wrenches. They're mostly, pretty much all German except for a couple of Baco Swedish made ones. And I'm just going to show you kind of the process I would go through to try to get these cleaned up the best I can. So the easiest type of cleanup is basically what you see like down in the reliefs a lot. It's just basically gunked up from, crud. And that's really, there's nothing to cleaning that off. Just throw that into a sonic cleaner and that'll just take it right off. You could also just get in there and scrub that down. So a piece like this one only has minor chrome damage. Basically it's got a couple of chips, very little, and the tiny bit of wear up here, but basically this one is in what I consider very good condition. And then you get into things like this where the chrome has chipped away and you get basically you start getting corrosion. So that's just a rust spot there, and the longer it corrodes, the more pitting or material that will be removed away. I'm going to try repairing the chrome on these, something I haven't actually done. There's a kit you can buy from Caswell Plating, and then you get the areas like this where I'm not sure I'm going to be able to repair that enough. I mean, I can remove the rust pretty easily, but I don't know if I'll be able to repair that chrome quite right. There's quite a few more wrenches. I just only pulled out a couple. And so basically the first process I do is I throw this into a sonic cleaner with just a simple detergent or a simple concentrated cleaner. What that'll do is just degrease everything, get rid of all the crud in the reliefs, and get it ready for rust removal. I don't know if I'm probably not going to show that because there's really not much to it, just throwing them into a cleaner and turning it on. The second step is the rust removal step. So my rust removal of choice is Evapo-Rust, and I typically would let them sit for something like this that's not that badly rusted, probably only a couple hours. If it's really rusted, overnight. And I've actually been using the sonic cleaner to do that. There's a couple of reasons for that. One, you can heat it up, and that will actually accelerate the process to make so you don't have to leave it in there as long. The second is that you can cycle it at the very end, and that will actually act as like a scrubber, like you're scrubbing it down, which is one of the things you normally have to do with Evapo-Rust. After you pull them out, you got to scrub everything down. So let's go ahead and do those first two steps, see how clean we can get these, and then we'll move on to some repair. Alright, so we got the wrenches out of the solution, and this is pretty much what you get. Alright, so the next step is we're going to try to restore or repair some of this chrome. So what I do first is in the areas that I want to touch it up, I use some isopropanol alcohol, and this is just a lint-free tissue to basically clean up any residual oils or whatnot on those pieces. To try to touch it up, I'm going to use this Caswell plug-and-plate chrome solution. So this is not actually chromium, it's some other solution, because chromium would be a controlled hazardous material. And basically it comes with a 4.5 volt DC supply, and you attach the negative somewhere on the piece close to where you want it to chrome it. Positive you attach to this wand, and you just dip that gauze in the solution, and then you basically just rub it on those areas, and you're basically doing electroplating at that point. You can definitely see it working. It kind of bubbles up. So let's see how it does on one of these kind of a matte chrome finish. Let's see if it touches it up at all. That seems to be working pretty well there. So that seemed to do a pretty good job. So let's see how it does on one of these really bad ones. So I don't really have a lot of hope for these ones, but let's just see how it does. But this one was pretty pitted. I actually looked at it under some magnification and it didn't look to be in very good shape. So I'd be surprised if it can fill in all those spots. Well, it's certainly a lot better than it was. There's some of those pits I think are a little too deep to get down in there. I think that might be part of the problem, or maybe there's still some residual rust down in there. Yeah, but still, it helped it a little bit. Alright, well I think I've done about as much re-chroming as I want to do here. The results are kind of mixed, and I think I know why some areas were more successful than others. So in the areas that were really just wear, you know, from the chrome wearing off, like right here on this Baco, it actually looked like it did a pretty good job of covering up those areas. And the areas where there was a lot of pitting, it didn't do as good of a job. So what I think it is you need to have almost a smooth surface in order for that process to work, that electroplating. If the surface is really rough, you know, from pitting or corrosion, it just can't bond to that roughness. I believe that's what's going on. So I think what I would have to do for some of these areas, I would actually have to take probably like a Dremel or an angle grinder and actually just, you know, smooth out that surface. But in most of the areas it did a pretty decent job. There was a huge chip right in there and it actually covered that up pretty well, at least to the point where it's not going to corrode anymore in that one spot. And like over here. But on the places like up in here where there was actual pitting, it didn't do as good of a job. So what I would have to do is basically take off like maybe like a dime size area down to bare metal and then retry it. So that might be something I do in the future, but I think for now these should be alright. So one of the final steps I do with these is I just put some Ballistol, oil them up nice and good. And actually, if you just do this without any, you know, re-chroming, it'll protect it. It'll make sure that it won't keep rusting in those areas. And hopefully in the future I'm going to do a video on the Ballistol, because it is a pretty amazing oil. It's actually a water soluble oil, so which makes it really good for removing other oils. So you can actually use it to clean parts that are greasy. And here's another example of places where there was a lot of pitting. It started to cover the areas that were not as pitted, but this one was probably one of the worst ones. So I think for now I'm just going to oil it. That will at least prevent any more corrosion on the piece, and if it gets any worse I can actually try to grind that down, flatten that out. Alright, so let me finish oiling all of these and we'll be right back. Alright, well I got everything nice and oiled. So I think that's going to about wrap it up for this one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and I'll catch you guys next time.